My name is Stephen Lay. I am a teacher here in the faculty. I teach English and English for academic purposes. I'm Australian, but I have dual citizenship, so I'm Australian and British. So I was born in Australia and I lived a lot of my youth in England. And I've lived in London. Where else have I lived? London, Wales, and Oxford. I spent some years in Oxford teaching. What brought me to Coimbra? Well, I've always been very interested in Portuguese history, particularly Portuguese medieval history, and I have done quite a lot of research in Portuguese medieval history. So I was living in England doing my research when Brexit came, and so then I thought, I don't want to get trapped in England by Brexit, so I moved to Portugal, and so I've been living here ever since. Initially I was in Lisbon, so I like Lisbon very much. I was living in Lisbon in Matimonix and teaching English in Lisbon. What brought me to Coimbra, other than the history of the city of course, is I came here to learn Portuguese. So there's the Portuguese for Foreigners course. So I came here, and in fact I was living quite close to here. I was living in Penedo de Cidade, which I liked very much. So I was living there and learning Portuguese, and one of my housemates said there was a job in the faculty for teaching English, so I applied and got it. So now I have stayed. I like Coimbra a lot for the history of the place. As I say, I'm a medievalist by training and inclination, but I'm becoming more and more interested in more modern history, more modern Portuguese history, particularly the Napoleonic period. But at the same time, I'm also becoming interested in an earlier period too, the Visigothic period. So my historical interests are sort of broadening, I guess, in both directions. I like Coimbra after Lisbon. One of the reasons I moved from Lisbon was because I was quarantined in Lisbon by COVID. And when you're quarantined in a city, it loses its charm. And so I had got used to the noise of Lisbon, but then it went quiet, and I got used to quiet again, and then the quarantine ended and it became noisy again, and I thought, I cannot stand living here like this anymore. So I moved to Coimbra and found the peace and quiet I was craving. I've been here now for 2 years. Yeah, and yes, I enjoy it very much. I was also here earlier when I first came to Portugal. I came and spent some time in Coimbra doing some research here, and so I have many fond memories of Coimbra. Yes, and I've met many people here. I now have quite a few friends here, and I enjoy teaching at the university. It's an interesting university to teach in. It's very... What I like about it is that the lecturers here have a good deal of freedom, and so in our courses we can design our courses. We have, I think, good relations with the students by and large. I think that I like to think that we are teaching them useful skills and that they are enjoying them. I like to think. What else do I like about Coimbra? The other thing I like about Coimbra is we're quite close to the countryside here, and so we can just look out and there's the countryside. And I also, as a hobby, I quite like hiking in the country, and it's quite easy to just set off in any direction from here and just walk in the country. Yes, I suppose if there's one reservation I have about Coimbra, it's that there is no Thai restaurants here. Yeah, and because my favourite cuisine is Thai food, and there is no Thai restaurant. So if there's any Thai cooks who are watching this, there is a business opportunity for you in Coimbra. Because every other city I've been to in Portugal, even Braga, I went to Braga not so long ago for just to have a look at the place. Even Braga has a Thai restaurant. So yes, if something could be done about that, it would be a fine thing. I don't know if I should say this, but I will. It would be nice if there's not a lot of good bars in Coimbra, I have to say, what I would consider a good bar. There's lots of bars, but they tend to be student bars. There's not a lot of bars where you can just sit and have a drink, like my sort of bars. So, because again, I was in Tamar, not that long ago, and they have an excellent bar in the middle of the town. Like everybody, I just walked in and everybody was making friends with you, and ended up talking about treasure hunting, and it was just that kind of bar, where everybody wants to talk to you. Whereas here, there are a few bars I go to and they're fine, but there's not a bar like that. They're all a little bit. They're catering to a student audience, which is fine. It's a student town, but it would be nice if there was a few bars for the locals. It would be nice too if they would build the light railway, but I do not believe they will. Other than that, no. I think it's a well put together city. I quite like the hills. They keep you fit. Maybe I would feel a bit different if I was driving. I think it would be a difficult city for driving and finding parking spots. Yeah, that's about it. I think other than that, Coimbra is a pleasant place to live. As I say, I quite like hiking in the countryside roundabout. I read a lot. That's about it, really. I'm not one for hobbies. I'm a bit too busy for hobbies. Yeah, because as I say, I do my own research, so I'm usually reading, even writing, maybe some time in the archives, that kind of thing. But perhaps I often thought I should develop more hobbies, but I just do not have time. Oh, cooking, I suppose. Cooking is, yeah. Since there is no Thai restaurants here, I have to cook my own Thai food, so I do enjoy cooking. That is another good thing about Coimbra, I must say, is that you can get good ingredients here quite easily. So if you go, there's the markets, there's the farmers' markets. You can get like the potatoes from heaven. You can just go down and buy them. Yes, and I think that is a great benefit. I think so, yeah. I could see myself staying here for a few years. Possibly I might move closer to the sea, because I know that there are some people who live in maybe Figueira or something and commute in. I could see myself doing that. One thing about Coimbra is it's very similar, like the topography, the shape of the land is very similar to where I was born in Canberra in Australia. Like we have a river that's very similar to this, and eucalyptus trees, the smell of eucalypt. It's and just the weather here, it's very similar to where I grew up, which is nice. It's one of the things I like about it, but I wouldn't mind being closer to the sea as well, some sea air. So in a couple of years, I might move closer to the sea. What would I like to see here? What I would like to see, actually, if I was going to design some kind of event here, it would be an event. My favourite event that we used to have back in my hometown was what we used to call the Food and Wine Frolic. And it was an event where you could easily hold it in one of the squares here, where the vineyards, because we had, as I say, it was country like this, we had a lot of vineyards, a lot of good restaurants. The vineyards would have a little stall, there was wine tasting, and then there was, you could try different foods, and it would go for the weekend. And it was a magnificent event, and we would all look forward to it the whole year. And so all of the local vineyards, all of the local beer places, all of the local restaurants and farms to a degree would bring things in, and you could just try all the different things in an afternoon. And that was a great afternoon. Yeah. So yes, if you could do something like that, I would be grateful for it. A light rail would be nice. Yeah, is that I think the major infrastructure problem in Coimbra is transport. And for me, it's okay because I can walk around. I enjoy walking around. But it would be nice to have, buses are all very well, but they're sort of a little bit, you don't want to be relying on them. It would be nice if there was some kind of light rail, because even in Canberra, they've now built a light rail. And I was surprised that they did this, but they did. And so, like all of these little villages around here in Canberra would now be connected by the light rail, which is, it's an expensive upfront cost, but I think it's vale a pena. Yeah, well worth it. Yeah, well, because I do have a plan for running for mayor. I'm thinking of forming a party where we advocate transferring the capital of Portugal back to Coimbra, because technically it has never legally moved. So I think that there's a real opportunity to mount a case in the European courts and say, under European law, we are still the capital. We want it back. And I think people here would vote for that. And I will be mayor. 10 years, I might be the mayor. Like my town, Canberra, we are the capital. And so our situation is quite similar to Coimbra, is that we're halfway between the two big cities, which are Sydney and Melbourne, but we have this special status. You know, Sydney is Sydney, the international city. Melbourne is kind of more like Porto. It's the more business, the place that works. And then there is Canberra. We rule them. And I think Coimbra could have a nice status like that. Like the others, one of them works, the other play, but we rule them. I would suggest the normal things, that they should visit the library and see the bats. I'm very fond of those bats. And also, I think, to go and see Santa Cruz, so that you can go and look at the tomb of the first two kings, go and see the tomb of Alfonso Henriques. And also, what I find interesting about the tomb of Alfonso Henriques is that you can still see the marks left by the Napoleonic soldiers when they smashed their way in. And so it has, if you like, two different stories of history in one place. So I would definitely recommend you go and see that. And also you can reflect on the fact that, which I quite like, is that they refuse to do DNA tests on the bones of Alfonso Henriques because it's disrespectful. And I do like that there is a limit to science, is that, you know, everybody is happier with the doubt. Like, maybe they're not Alfonso Henriques' bones, but what good would it do to know that? Everyone is much happier thinking that they are. Yeah, and I do quite like that. So yes, that would be my big recommendation. Come to Coimbra, it's a lovely town.